Hey everyone, my name is Megan Dobson and I am a manager of customer success here at Mural. Today I'm going to walk you through Intro to Mural 2, which will be all about our facilitation features as well as practices in productivity. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to walk through our facilitation features that will really help you lead better meetings. And this again, trash can. We have a lot of different facilitation features to walk through, so bear with me. So at the bottom of my screen, you can see my avatar has a little star. That designates that I am a facilitator in this mural. I can actually add more facilitators by going to the top of the screen, and under my members dropdown, I can actually click on another member, and I can change their editing access to facilitation access. So you can have multiple facilitators that will have these facilitation superpowers. So before I get into my facilitation superpowers, I want to do a quick reminder on how to share your mural to get people in. So I'm going to go ahead and click my share button here, and I'm going to go ahead and invite some visitors in so you can see exactly how the facilitation superpowers will work. So I'm going to click on my visitor link, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to share it with my participants and have them come into the mural with me. So you can see I now have a little visiting bee that's in this mural with me. That person came in through that visitor link, and they're now participating along with me. So one thing I like to point out for facilitators and for users inside of a mural is to always click on the facilitator's icon if you get lost, and you'll get to exactly where they are in the mural. So let's start with customizing your session experience. First and foremost, we have a custom toolbar that you can use to change the experience for your mural participants. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that custom toolbar. So what I can do here is that I can actually change the experience for my users depending on what I want them to see in the mural. So here I can go ahead and enable my custom toolbar, and I can say for this particular session, I only want my participants to be able to add a sticky note. I don't want them to get bothered with all of the other tools on the toolbar. So I can actually click See Preview, and then you can see the participants in the mural will only be able to see those particular icons in the toolbar. They won't be able to access any of the other features. This is great if you only want them to be able to see a couple things. Maybe they're new to Mural, maybe you don't want them to get confused with the image gallery and our draw tool and some of the other tools that they can use. So this is really awesome to just streamline. They're gonna come in, they're gonna add sticky notes and brainstorm, and that's all they're gonna do. So I'm gonna use the custom toolbar to make that really simple for them. But for the sake of today, I'm gonna make sure that my participants can have the full toolbar, so I'll keep my custom toolbar turned off. So we also have our outline mode here. So if I click on my outline, you can see that I have sections of my mural that are in a slide format. So I can actually click on my welcome, and that takes me to my welcome slide. I can click on my facilitation features, and that takes me to my features slide. And there's a lot of different things I can do with my outline mode. One of my favorite parts of the outline mode is the hide and reveal functionality. So if I'm not ready to present on this section yet, I can actually go ahead and hover over this little eyeball here, and I can hide that entire content. So that way, my little visiting bee here, they can't go ahead, they have to stay on track with exactly what I'm presenting until I'm ready to reveal that section, and then we can talk about that section together. Again, a really great way as a facilitator or a team captain or whoever's hosting the meeting to keep people on track. A couple other things to point out about the outline mode. We also can turn outline mode into presentation mode. So you can actually present the mural through these different slides. Instead of panning and zooming, you're presenting them like a presentation. And then also you can see here that I actually added a video into my outline mode. And what you can do with this is you can actually have a full mural created and have people come in an asynchronous fashion, meaning they're not actually in the mural with you in real time, but they can walk through the outline. You can add instructions. So I can say during the welcome section, I'm going to have everybody read the instructions and then go to part 2. And you can create a full guide through our outline mode here, including videos that might explain what's happening in the mural and ask for feedback in certain sections. And the last thing I'll point out here, you can also download the outlined content here, and that can actually be used in a PowerPoint presentation. You can download it as a PDF, etc. But that's a really great way to then export the content in your outline mode. All right, let's get back to our facilitation features here. So outline mode is really awesome. One last thing I'd like to do is show you how to add to your outline mode. So I have this shape down here. So I'm actually gonna go ahead in my shape library, drag and drop this shape. And this is just gonna be my background here for this particular section. Let's say I wanted to add a quick icebreaker into this section here. So I'm gonna grab some text as well to make sure we have a heading, and I'm gonna call this my icebreaker. We can also change the text size and shape and format. So now that I have my section here, I can actually right-click on it and I can add to outline. So then you'll see that this unnamed shape has been added to my outline. I can do this for images and other pieces of content as well, but I prefer to use shapes as my different sections, or you can also use frameworks or areas. But I'm gonna go ahead and name this my icebreaker. And I also want this to happen before my facilitation features if I'm redoing this presentation. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag that icebreaker on my outline mode to be exactly where I want it. So that way, when somebody reads through it, they're doing it in chronological order. So that's how you would add to your outline. And I could also hide that function if I'm not ready to show it yet. So that is our outline mode. You might have noticed that a lot of the content on my mural is locked down. That is by design to keep others from editing it or changing it without my permission. So as a facilitator, I have the option to right-click on objects in my mural and actually lock them down. You'll see I have two options here, is either any member can unlock or only facilitators can unlock. Totally up to your discretion if you want other members that are in the mural with you to be able to unlock and change content, or if you want your content to all be locked down. I usually go through before I present and lock down all of the content that I don't want to be changed by anyone else. So one great thing about the lock is that it keeps everything consistent and your brand doesn't get changed and none of your content gets changed before the session. So you can see in my mural here, I have all these icons that don't match the rest of the presentation. So what I can do is click Shift on my keyboard, I can drag over all these icons, and I'm also going to use my filter here to make sure I only have icons selected. And then I can go ahead and change that to the blue that the rest of the icons are. And that way it's more consistent with my presentation. And then I'm going to click Shift again here and just lock that down. I'm going to do that facilitator lock, knowing no one else will be able to unlock that. You'll also want to note in the top right-hand corner of the screen, we have our help bar and also our keyboard shortcuts. So if you're wondering how I'm doing all of this so fast, I'm doing it through our keyboard shortcuts, and depending on your computer, you'll get the shortcuts that match your computer, and you'll be able to do those shortcuts and just easily unlock, lock, move things around, etc. All right, so that is our facilitator lock. So we also have the ability to customize avatars. So in the drop down here next to the title of my mural, I can click on that caret and it's going to open up my mural settings. And in my mural settings, I'm able to see the canvas color, the canvas size, how large it is, and also I have some customized options here. So I can change the timer sound, I can change the visiting avatar theme. So we had a visiting bee come in, but that could have been a visiting cello or a visiting airplane if we would have changed the theme. So this is a couple different things that you can do to just customize the visitor experience. We'll keep it as is. I like our visiting bee. So the last thing on our list here is publishing templates. So in that same caret where the mural settings were, you can actually click on Publish as Template. You can name the template, you can give a description to it, and this template will live in your own workspace and your colleagues can go ahead and find it and use it as well on their own. So this is a bit different from the content library. The content library is snippets of content that you can reuse that's personal to you. A template, however, is something that your whole organization can have access to if they're members in your workspace. So I'm gonna go ahead and publish this. So I'm gonna call it the Intro to Mural 2 template. I'm gonna describe it as we do the facilitation features, publish template, and then I'm gonna show you where this lives. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to my dashboard, and then in our templates tab, I'm able to go to the workspace specific templates. So this first tab is the mural templates for all of our customers. The second tab is the workspace specific templates. And then I can go ahead and see my Intro to Mural 2 template. I can choose where it lives and I can go ahead and create a mural from that template. So let me go back into our mural so we can continue with our facilitation features. All right, now for my favorite features, the actual features that you'll use when you're running the session. First and foremost, summoning. Summoning is my favorite feature that we have for facilitators. You can find it by hovering over your avatar and clicking on summon, and you'll see that now that visiting bee that's in here with me is following me in my mural. I can also check this through my mini map on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and I can see that that person is now following me. Their color is overlapped over mine, and I can see exactly where they are in the mural. The second layer of summoning, so summoning first brings them to the screen that you're on. The second layer is the take control. So I can then click take control, and now the visiting bee cannot add content, they can't move their screen, they can hover with their cursor, but they can't actually move out of the screen or add anything to the mural. This is really great, especially when you're giving instructions or if you're sharing a prompt and you want them to listen, the participants that is, and then from there you can summon them, take control, read the instructions, and then release them and allow them to participate with whatever the feedback mechanism was. So that is summoning and take control. If you try to use any of the facilitation features, try that one out. It's a great one to keep everyone focused. All right, we also have our handy dandy laser pointer. So if I wanted our visiting bee here to be able to see exactly what I'm looking at, I'm gonna click H on my keyboard here and use the laser pointer so they know exactly what I'm looking at. And that's also an icon at the top of the toolbar here that I can turn on as well, but H is the shortcut. I also have the ability to hide cursors. So if I hover over my avatar again, that's where I can find a lot of these facilitation features, and I can actually turn off the ability to show cursors. So the reason you do this, if you have over 50 participants inside of your mural, it can get a little crazy with the cursors on your screen. So you can actually, as the facilitator, say, I'm gonna take away the option to show cursors, or I'm only gonna hide non-facilitator cursors so people can still see my cursor. That way people can see the content and not just where everyone else is in the mural. So that's also an option. And then last but not least, we have our timer. That's the top of the screen, the little clock. I can turn that timer on, I can change the sound of it, and we can start that timer, and it's going to tick down on every single person that's in this mural. This is a really great way to time box activities so you can see exactly how long it's taking to do something, or if you want to really stay on task, you have an hour-long meeting and you want everyone to present for 10 minutes long, it keeps everybody on task. So we'll let that timer tick down for the next 2 minutes. All right, those are our run structured sessions features. So last but not least, we have our increasing engagement features. So I'm gonna start from the bottoms up here. At the bottom of your screen, again, if you hover over your avatar, you can click the celebrate button, which creates this beautiful confetti shower so we can celebrate a session well done. And it just brings some joy to your session. You know, sometimes we're not doing the most fun things and we can celebrate and just say we did a good job. And then also we have this little reaction zone to the left of my avatar here. That's the little smiley face. And here I can actually grab hearts and thumbs up, and I can click on this, and anyone in the mural can actually click on this with me. Really great way to do some nonverbal feedback as I'm presenting. I can see thumbs up and hearts and people really enjoying what we're talking about. So that's our reaction zone and our celebrate, two really positive things to have in a session. And then the last two items are private mode and voting, which I'm gonna showcase to you in a quick play area here. So the first one we'll do is the voting tool. So to use the voting tool, we're gonna go ahead and create a prompt. So I'm gonna put on our mural here, what is your favorite dessert? So that's gonna be our prompt here. I'm gonna go ahead and bold it. I'm gonna go ahead and lock it down so nobody can change it. And then typically I'd have my participants add some imagery here, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it for them. So we're gonna have a couple different options. That was our timer. So we're gonna have a couple different options for the prompt, what is your favorite dessert? So I'm gonna put some cookies here, maybe a pie. I know I'm making you all hungry. And then maybe we'll do a cake as well. Let's keep it really simple. So I have 3 options here for our favorite dessert. So now I need to understand what is everyone's favorite out of these 3. What better way to do it than a voting session? So I'm gonna go ahead and come up to the top here. We're gonna start a voting session. I'm gonna name it favorite dessert. You can see I've done this one before. I'm gonna give everyone one vote. You could always have multiple votes if you'd like. I'm gonna make it so only me and facilitators can end it, but there is a way that you can add it so any member can end this voting session. I'd also point out that you can keep this voting session open for as long as you'd like. So if you have a global team and you want them to participate in the vote, you could just keep the voting session open throughout the night and they'll be able to log into their mural and place a vote on whatever card. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I can actually select what the participants are gonna vote on. I'm gonna keep it as images, and I'm gonna go ahead and select where they can vote versus the entire canvas, which just makes it easier so someone's not voting on an image that's on the next presentation slide. So I'm gonna go ahead and click next here. I'm gonna scan out exactly where I want them to vote. So I want them to vote only on these 3 images, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start the voting session. So everyone in the voting session will receive this card that says click a card to add a vote, shift click to remove a vote, your vote is anonymous, just a headline for them to understand. Of course, as a facilitator, it's always great to reiterate this actual how to do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and click begin voting, and then this is where I can actually place my vote. Those cookies are looking delicious, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on that cookie. I added my vote here, and you can see there's a little purple dot that shows I placed a vote. So another thing to point out as well, it tells me how many votes that I personally have left in this voting session, and any participant will see that. And it also shows me how many people have voted or still need to vote. So I can see I've already voted, there's nobody else that needs to vote, we can go ahead and end the session. This is really great as a facilitator that you could say, hey, visiting Turtle, can you make sure to put your vote in, or whoever it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the voting session. We're gonna end it for everyone, and then I can see who voted on what in my session. I can always come back to these voting sessions later. I can have multiple voting sessions. So if we had a tie here, I could hold another voting session. It's a really quick way to get an understanding of where everyone's pulse is. I could always refer back to this voting session as well. All you have to do is go back to the voting icon. I can see the results page, or I can show the votes, so I'm able to understand who voted on what when we did that. Maybe the voting session was last month and you want to do a similar one this month. You can always refer back to them. Now that you know how to use the voting feature, let's use private mode. Private mode is really great to keep things totally anonymous, as well as to combat groupthink. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. I'm gonna summon my participants over. I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate my title so I have a new prompt. I'm gonna say, what is your favorite facilitator feature? So that's gonna be my new prompt. Gonna go ahead and lock that down. So I know everyone's on the screen where they need to see the instructions, and then I'm gonna go ahead and enact private mode. So I'm gonna go to the top of my screen, click my little incognito icon here, and this opens up private mode. So as the facilitator, I get to decide whether or not the content remains totally anonymous. For the sake of this demo, I'm gonna go ahead and keep the content anonymous so I can show you what that means. So we're gonna go ahead and start private mode. Everyone will now see this alert as soon as the facilitator starts private mode, that no one can see what others are doing. You can add content here, but no one else will be able to see it. So you click got it, and you can see here, my participants are adding content, but I can't see what it is. So I know there's a sticky note, there's something there, I can't actually see what it is. So you can give your participants a couple minutes here to share their content, and then you could go ahead and end private mode. So I'm gonna go to the top of my screen here, end private mode. We're gonna end private mode and reveal content. And then I can see, I love the timer, it saves time. I like the laser. So people have shared what their favorite facilitator features are. So earlier I said that there's a way to keep this content totally anonymous. And what I mean by that is any content that's added to the mural, I can actually right click on it and I can show info. And here, typically I would see it was added by Megan or was added by Steve. But because it was during private mode and I kept it anonymous, you can see that it was added in private mode. And that's just a great way to share with your participants if they're giving feedback or you're doing a retrospective, that the content will remain totally anonymous. All right, so we've gotten through all of our facilitation features, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about the application of these features as well as exporting your mural. So let's talk about exporting and sharing out your mural. So we talked about how to add collaborators into your mural, but perhaps your mural is a work in progress and you're working with others to make it really perfect before you present it. So one thing that you can do is you can actually comment inside of your mural. So I can right click here, I can add a comment, and I can actually tag my participants that are in this mural. So I could say, hey Steve, could you check this out? Or take a look at it, edit it, whatever it is that you need them to do. You can send that. And Steve will actually get a notification that I've commented on this particular area of this mural and that I want to have some feedback and discourse about it. And we can do this totally asynchronously. We don't actually have to have a live session together. We can talk about this and then edit it in our own time. So you can see Steve said, we'll have a look with the team. And then once I know that this comment has been resolved and we're at a good place, I can actually click this little check mark here, mark as resolved. It's been resolved. And then that comment mark is gonna go away. So in my mural, I'll be alerted of all the different outstanding comments and we can work on them together to really create a beautiful presentation. And you can always refer back to these comments in the comment tab at the above on the toolbar. And you can see where there's open and resolved comments. So I can go through and see all of the comments I've resolved and all of them that are still outstanding that I need to look at. So that's one way to continue the conversation in the mural. Another way is to export. So we also have some abilities here to export. So at the top of your screen, you have the download option. We talked about earlier how you can download to a PowerPoint. There's also, you can download to a PDF, a PNG, HTML. You can download your sticky notes to a CSV. You can download all of your content, a selection of your content, or just the pieces of the outline that you've added to the outline presentation. And then when you download, you can also click email me a link to, or it'll download directly to your computer. And then a couple other options to talk about are embedding. So you can also embed your mural. So if I go back to my share button here, I can click share mural. I can actually see at the bottom right-hand corner, there's an embed button. And then I can go ahead and grab that snippet and I can place that where I keep my documentation. So perhaps you use Google Docs, perhaps you use Confluence. You could go ahead and add that snippet and it will embed a mural. So someone doesn't have to go search for the link or search for the share option. They can go right to the mural from that embed link. Then one thing I didn't point out is also the option to export to Jira, GitHub, Azure, etc. So I can actually right click on that sticky note. And if I wanted to go ahead and send it right to Jira, I could click send to Jira. And then my Jira is gonna pop up. I can log in, I can create a project and priority. The reporter is automatically myself, and I can go ahead and send that to Jira. So again, really awesome to be able to integrate with your personal tool stack. So now that we've talked about the facilitation features, we've talked about the popular practices for productivity, such as exporting and commenting, I want to put all this together in a couple different presentations. So the first one here is combining your frameworks with facilitation features. So this is combining some of the learnings from Intro to Mural 1, as well as the facilitation features that we chatted about. So for example, we have a prompt here. So what should we brainstorm about today? So I have 3 different options here that we could then do a voting session for. So again, maybe you have a couple different options for your team. You want to understand what you need to prioritize. Let's go ahead and vote on it. So I could start a voting session and we could decide which of these 3 items we should brainstorm about. I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to brainstorm on dream vacations. So I'm going to drag that down to my second portion of my brainstorm. So then the next option that you could do here is enact private mode. So I could turn private mode here and have everybody brainstorm on their different types of dream vacations. So I could say maybe Thailand, I could say Cabo, I could say Japan, a couple different options for our dream vacation. And then from here, I could then prioritize these brainstorm ideas. So the bullseye diagramming is from our framework library. So if you remember, if you go to the framework library, you can find these easy to use frameworks that you can drag and drop onto your mural. And here, this bullseye diagramming is great for when you have a lot of sticky notes, a lot of ideas, and you need to prioritize what's feasible. So if we keep on with the same theme of dream vacations, we could say as a team, let's prioritize these, grab a sticky note and put it onto the bullseye diagramming. So I could say, okay, well, Thailand sounds really tropical and great. We'll keep that here. Maybe Japan is a little bit tougher to get to. And then lastly, our team decided that Cabo is the easiest to get to for a dream vacation for our team. So we're gonna put that in the middle as the easiest and most feasible to do. So from there, as an action item, I'm gonna say, okay, so we've brainstormed, we've voted on our ideas, we then use private mode to think of more ideas, we then prioritize them, and now let's give an action to them. So I'm gonna say, okay, if we're deciding we're gonna go to Cabo for our dream vacation, I'm gonna go ahead and create a tag and say that Steve is in charge of this particular dream vacation that we're gonna do. So I'm gonna tag Steve here. And then I'm also gonna tag Andrew up here for Thailand in case we have a plan B, he's involved in that one. So you can use tags to then prioritize who owns what sticky note and what project. So that is one idea to take all of the different frameworks and features that you've learned and prioritize and brainstorm together as a team. So I also want to talk a little bit about how to do this in an asynchronous fashion. So the first one I just showed you, that's a really easy brainstorming session that you could do with your team. That you vote, you prioritize together, you're facilitating this with them. The second option is to actually do this in an asynchronous fashion. So let's talk about how that would work. So asynchronous work is really great, again, to combat meeting fatigue. You don't always need to have a live meeting. Let's do it in a mural, and let's use some of the features to make it really streamlined and fast. So again, let's have a topic. So let's say that we need to prioritize our Q2 work is gonna be our title for our subject here. So the first thing that you can do is perhaps in your outline mode. We talked about outline mode. It's a great way to keep people on track. You can also add videos to your outline mode like we talked about. And you can do this by going to the options, and you can go ahead and edit instructions, and you can just paste in a URL to YouTube or another video, and that's gonna show up right in your outline mode. So I'm actually gonna name this my instructions for brainstorm. So I'm gonna send this mural to my participants. They're gonna know to go into the mural. They're then gonna see the instructions, and the instructions will talk about the video that will then say how to prioritize your work. So day one, they go to the video and the outline. It gives an overview of the task in hand. And I also ask them, okay, so I need you to also add sticky notes after you know the prompt. So now on day one, they've gone into my mural, they've looked at the outline mode, they've watched my video, they've added sticky notes. Again, all of this is happening without having to do a live meeting. They just are following instructions and adding their own commentary on their own time. This is great for a global team as well, that my counterparts in EMEA and APAC can contribute to this without actually having to set up time together. So day two, as a facilitator, I can come in and say, okay, I see a couple pieces of feedback here. So maybe some people said that we need to do a brainstorming session. Maybe some people said we need to revisit our OKRs. And then I could come in as the facilitator, again, use the comment functionality and say, can you elaborate? Can you elaborate on this? And then from here, we can again, same thing as the brainstorming, prioritize our work, prioritize what we're working on, and really start to funnel down and understand what's important and what we need to do. So on day two, I've used the comment feature to then talk back to the participants that have added their commentary. And then day three, I might have all of these sticky notes that I've now converged, and I'm able to then vote on what is the most important things for our Q2 work. So then I can open a voting session. Again, you can keep that voting session open for 24 hours and have all of your global colleagues participate. So the verdict is, in this quick and dirty collaboration session asynchronously, is that instead of taking up a full hour-long meeting across time zones, I was able to give these instructions in a really clear format in this mural. It maybe took 15 minutes for each person to participate, add sticky notes, and add commentary. All right, so now that we've applied some of our learnings, you've understood the facilitation features, you've understood how to combine them with our frameworks. And again, my tip to you, share the Getting Started guide, add it to your content library. And as always, check out our Help Center as well as our Mural webinars. They're really helpful to continue your education in Mural. Thanks everyone for watching.